Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are going on a fascinating journey of scale. We're going to start by zooming way in on our immediate everyday surroundings, and then, step by step, we'll zoom all the way out to look at the massive, interconnected machinery of the entire biosphere. This whole thing is about decoding the invisible rules that govern life on Earth, and it is absolutely mind-blowing.
All right, here's our roadmap for today. We've broken this vast topic down into 5 easy steps. We'll start with defining our environment, move into the science of ecology, climb the ecological hierarchy, explore niches and ecotones, and finally put the whole shebang together to see ecosystems in action.
Okay, part 1, defining our environment. Let's kick things off by answering a really basic question. What exactly is surrounding us right now?
You know, to truly understand a concept, I always find it helps to look at its roots. The word environment actually comes from this beautiful French root word environner, which literally translates to encircle or surround. So the crucial point here is that your environment isn't just, say, the woods behind your house. It is absolutely everything that surrounds or affects an organism during its entire lifetime. And what that means is our environment comes in vastly different forms. We naturally tend to think of vibrant, green ecosystems that have evolved over millennia, right? But the artificial, human-made environments, those towering skyscrapers and the concrete grids we navigate every single day, well, those are just as much an environment as a pristine forest. And right in the center of this crazy dynamic? Us, humans. We act as the ultimate bridge. Arrows point outward from us to natural components, sure, but also to human-made structures like roads and even social constructs like our economies. We are literally the common denominator connecting all these different spheres. Now, if we focus strictly on the natural side for a second, consider the 4 major spheres that physically encircle us. We've got the atmosphere, which is the thick gaseous layer above us, then the lithosphere, the solid outermost layer of the Earth right beneath our feet. The hydrosphere covers all the water, and not just oceans and rivers, but even the moisture sitting up in the clouds, down in the soil. And finally, the biosphere. That's simply anywhere on Earth where life actually exists. Moving right along to part 2, the science of ecology. Having defined what our environment actually is, let's look at the specific science dedicated to understanding it. Ecology is just a fantastic field, and the history of the word itself is super revealing. It was coined by the German zoologist Ernst Haeckel way back in 1866. He basically mashed up 2 Greek words, logos, meaning the study of, and oikos, meaning household or place to live. It is fascinating to realize that when biologists study ecology, they are quite literally studying the day-to-day interactions within our shared global household. And scientists study this massive household using 2 main lenses. Autoecology is kind of like putting a magnifying glass over a single organism to see exactly how it interacts with its environment. Synecology, on the other hand, zooms way out to look at the broader picture, understanding the really complex interactions of multiple species all living together within a community. Which brings us perfectly to part 3, the ecological hierarchy. Let's see how this all builds as we zoom out to view the grand scale of life. Think of biological organization like a giant logical ladder. You start at the very bottom with a single organism, the basic unit. When related organisms can breed, they form a species. Members of that species living in the same place at the same time, that's a population. Group multiple populations together, you get a community. Now add in the non-living elements, and boom, you have an ecosystem. Group similar ecosystems together, and you get a massive biome, like the tundra. And all biomes combined make up the ultimate level, the biosphere. Actually, let's pause right in the middle of that ladder on the word ecosystem, because it's a term we use all the time, right? We owe this word to Sir Arthur George Tansley, who coined it back in 1935. He used it as an abbreviation for ecological system to describe a unified whole. It's a functional unit where the community of living organisms interacts perfectly with its surrounding physical environment. All right, number 4, niches and ecotones, roles and borders. Now that we understand ecosystems as these unified systems, we need to look at the highly specific roles organisms play inside them and what on Earth happens at the borders where these ecosystems collide. So it is incredibly easy to confuse a habitat with a niche, but the distinction is absolutely crucial. Think of a habitat as an organism's address, the physical area where it lives. Lots of different species can share the exact same habitat. But a niche? A niche is an organism's profession. It's highly specific functional role in the community. And the golden rule here, no two species can ever occupy the exact same niche.
And an organism's niche is wildly detailed and multi-layered. It's not just about where it sleeps. A niche includes a food niche, exactly what it eats and who it competes with. It includes a reproductive niche, how and precisely when it reproduces. It even includes a physical and chemical niche, dictating the exact moisture levels and temperature ranges it needs to survive. Honestly, it's like a highly specialized biological resume.
So you've got organisms busy fulfilling their niches within an ecosystem. But what happens at the very edge of that ecosystem? Well, that brings us to ecotones. An ecotone is defined as a zone of tension. It happens when there's an abrupt change in environmental conditions between two bordering ecosystems. A great example of a human-induced ecotone would be the really sharp boundary between a man-made agricultural field and a wild natural forest.
Now, hearing zone of tension, you might think it's some barren wasteland. But actually, it is the exact opposite. Because an ecotone borrows intermediate conditions from both bordering worlds, it creates an incredibly vibrant borderland. Ecotones almost always possess a higher density of organisms and a much, much greater species diversity than either of the two ecosystems sitting right next to them. It's pretty amazing.
Finally, part 5, ecosystems in action. Let's pull all of these theoretical concepts together and see how this complex machinery actually operates in the real world.
Think about a basic pond ecosystem. It perfectly captures everything we've just been talking about. You have the living organisms, the frogs, the fish, the algae, all occupying their specific niches, and they're constantly interacting with the abiotic or non-living elements, the sunlight warming the water, the soil at the bottom, the oxygen they breathe. It is this beautiful, continuous, dynamic loop of life.
If we break down those crucial non-living components that make life possible, you basically see 3 layers. First, physical factors like sunlight and temperature set the strict limits for life. Then, inorganic substances like water and carbon dioxide provide the raw materials. But the real unsung heroes here are the organic compounds: carbohydrates, proteins, lipids. These are the literal building blocks that bridge the gap, linking the physical, non-living world straight to the living biological system.
Now, a vital thing to remember is that the ecosystems we observe are never, ever static. They are relentlessly dynamic. They go through a process called ecological succession. This just means that young, relatively simple ecosystems are constantly developing, shifting, and growing into much more complex ecosystems over time. Nature's always building, always iterating toward greater complexity and higher species diversity.
And all of this dynamic activity is strictly governed by fundamental rules. Nutrients are endlessly recycled. The system maintains homeostasis through biological feedback controls. And perhaps most importantly, there is a one-way flow of energy traveling through the food chain. Every single ecosystem operates on a strict energy budget, dictated by the sun and local factors. And let me tell you, that energy budget cannot be exceeded. So, we've scaled the hierarchy of life from a single organism all the way up to the global biosphere today. We've seen how every living thing occupies a precise, unshareable niche to keep the ecological machinery running. As we wrap up this explainer, I want you to look around at your own surroundings, your family, your workplace, your city. In this deeply interconnected world, what is your unique functional role? What's your niche? Keep learning, stay curious, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.